Okay, well, let's just get started. I just want to welcome everybody. I'm Kara Mendelson, the District 12 City Council member, and we do a monthly town hall. And usually we have a special guest who only speaks for 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. And then I do a little update from City Hall, and then we take questions about anything. But this one is really just focused on one topic, and it's about our kids. And it's about kids who are going through CPS and need foster care. So we invited a placement agency, an accreditation group. They can explain exactly what they do to really just give us an overview of how the process works if you are interested in becoming a foster family and what's required, how the whole thing happens. And so I like to tell people this is not like your first training because you're committed. It's just to find out what's it all about and see if you want to find out more in-depth information. Really, the city has nothing to do with CPS. I mean, actually zero. But what happened is I got recruited to go visit the CPS office. And I think they knew that because I had done so much professional work working with vulnerable people, and as a volunteer had been, a serial PTA president and president for Jewish Family Service and all these things, that I do have a heart for it. But I really didn't know anything about CPS. And I went and took that tour, and my mind was blown, and my heart was broken. So from there, they had sent me to Buckner, they had sent me to Promise House, which I was already familiar with, and some other places that are dealing with children without a placement. So they don't have a foster home. And so they're kind of more like group home, institutionalized. And I guess what they figured would happen is that I would start talking to people about this. And of course, they're right. So I started calling some of our state reps and state senators and the governor's office to say, hey, y'all need to get with it. And we need to fix this. And we're tired about reading about it in the paper. And we don't need the judge making the decisions. You need to step up and fund it. You need to step up and fix it. And so then I got offered a job. Which I said no. But what I think my role is to try to at least expand the number of good homes that kids can go to. And so I think as a city, we can help in that way. We have also, I serve on the legislative committee, and we have already written a letter to the state who's now looking at the upcoming budget for the state. And we've asked for additional funding from the city of Dallas, asking and advocating for additional funding for CPS. And in the letter, it recants some of the experiences I had as I've toured, and sort of the moral imperative to help both our children as well as adult protective services. And so I just wanted you to know sort of why we're doing this, because a couple people were like, I didn't know CPS was part of the city. Well, it's not. But you know what? They are our kids. And a lot of times they're leaving our community because we don't have enough homes. Mm-hmm. So with that, I know next to nothing, but we have 3 professionals on the line who can tell us everything. And so I want to welcome you, Tammy, Katie, and Amber. They're from Pathways, and they're going to give us an overview, and they're going to make sure we have enough time to ask any question you want. This is being recorded because there are a number of people who said they desperately want to know this, but wouldn't be able to make this. So we're recording it so they can go back and watch it without sort of the pressure of having to show up in the Pathways office, right? So with that, take it away.
Okay, well, I think we will go around and introduce ourselves. So my name's Amber Bollinger. I am the program manager here for our Pathways DFW office. And so I kind of oversee case management and some of the home development process. And I've been with Pathways for a little over 4 years, but I've been working in child welfare for about 10 years.
Hi, my name is Katie. I am one of the home developers with Pathways. I basically will tell you what home development is a little bit later on, but you just help families from the time they start inquiring and asking questions like you guys will do tonight, all the way up until they're licensed with us.
Hi, I'm Tammy Cavanis, and I am the same as Katie. I'm a covering which does encompass the Dallas Metroplex, the area. So, and we assist families getting them licensed. We help them with their documentation and just everything that is required of getting their home licensed for foster or adopt.
And I just wanted to say, Tammy, you cut out a little bit for me. I don't know if you did for everybody, but I heard you say that you are same for everybody. Okay, so that you're doing the same job as Katie, but maybe it's a different area. Is that right?
The same area. Yeah, we tag team.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I will start by telling y'all just a little bit about Pathways and our history. We are celebrating this year our 30th anniversary. So we're very excited and very proud of what we've done and where we are going. Pathways actually started with a couple, Dan and Betty Johnson, in Leakey, Texas. They were foster parents and they specialized in teenage boys. And from there, they found out that there was a huge need for more foster homes. And so that's kind of how Pathways got started. That was in 1992. In 1996, we started licensing foster homes. And so since 1996, we have been a licensed child placing agency contracted with the state of Texas. We serve in several areas in most of the state of Texas. So we have CPA offices here in Dallas-Fort Worth, in Houston, in San Antonio, in Austin, in Abilene, and in the Waco area. So here in Dallas-Fort Worth, we are considered Region 3. So the state has separated or divided, CPS has divided our state into regions. So here in DFW, we're in Region 3, which encompasses a 19-county geographical area. So you can imagine how large of the area we serve. So some days Katie and Tammy are driving, multiple hours just to go out to a home and do their walkthrough inspections and meeting with the families. So we do cover a large area. We also have some other programs in addition to our CPA program. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about that so you know that we're not a one-trick pony, but we do have several other programs that we offer. We have residential treatment centers. We have our habilitative homes in San Antonio, and that is for children who have intellectual and developmental disabilities who cannot be safely maintained and cared for in a home setting. And we actually have very exciting news. We just last month moved from our old facility, which was 4 homes in a neighborhood, to a new facility, which is much larger and used to be a nursing home, but we remodeled it, revamped it. We've got all of our kids moved in. It's very beautiful, and we're very proud of it. We also have our 3H Youth Ranch, which is in Mountain Home, Texas. And that is a program for children and teens who have behavioral challenges. It's more of a wilderness-based kind of program. So they do a lot of like outdoor activities, ropes courses, things like that in that program. We also have our Mosaic Behavioral Health Program, which serves all of those areas that I mentioned that our CPA serves. And that program has a lot of different offerings. We have behavior skills training, licensed therapy, psychiatry. So we do have an in-house child psychiatrist, and they do work with the children in our homes. So we are really grateful for that. And then we also rely on Mosaic for our skills training and some of our therapy for our children in our homes. So it's really nice to partner with them and for us to work together for better outcomes for our kids. So that is one thing that really sets us apart from many other CPAs, that we do have that behavioral health sister program. Kind of our mission statement, I just wanted to read it. Pathways seeks to transform the lives of individuals and families it serves, and in turn, transform the communities where people live and raise their families. Our operations, as well as the programming we deliver, project our values of excellence, diversity, innovation, compassion, and respect, among others. Pathways' mission represents an ambitious but clear benchmark for the organization. And so our slogan that we use in our marketing and everything is transforming lives, families, and communities. And that's been our kind of mission slogan, if you will, since for the past probably 25 or 30 years. Let's see. Since we started 30 years ago, we have helped place and care for over 10,000 children through our foster care program. We have found forever families for over 4,000 children. And so we have a focus on trauma-informed training with our families. We use trust-based relational intervention, also known in child welfare world as TBRI. So we are very intentional on using trauma-informed practices and training our families on how to utilize the trauma-informed trainings, trauma-informed parenting approach to help the children in our homes heal. And I think with that, I'm going to pass it on to Katie. And Katie, if you'll talk about kind of what it actually looks like to become a foster parent with Pathways.
Sure. So like Amber spoke about, we serve a variety of areas. I also wanted to add that we are expanding into Region 4, which is more Northeast Texas. So I know probably a lot of you are within the Dallas area, but if you know of anyone who would be interested in fostering or adopting, that's just something to note. So Pathways licenses foster homes for children ages 0 to 17. Like Amber mentioned, we really provide extensive training to help support our foster families. We not only want you to be willing to, foster or adopt, we want you to be equipped because we know that fostering really takes a high level of dedication and willingness and, day-to-day dedication to kind of what you're doing, because it can be challenging, just like parenting in general. So steps to becoming a foster parent, it starts with just conversations like we're having right now. This process is not something that's going to be rushed. It typically takes about 3 to 6 months. Our expectation with our foster parents is that you are through the bulk of the process within 6 months. We do want you to be dedicated and wanting to make this commitment towards fostering children. So that's kind of what that looks like. But throughout that process, you're going to be doing lots of trainings. You're going to be having those home visits with us, lots of paperwork, things that we'll need from you in order to make sure that this is going to be a safe home for the kids that are going to be in your care. Okay, so not only do we help families who are willing to traditionally foster and adopt, I did want to speak a little bit about something that is called kinship. So you or someone that you may know may have a child in your care that is through CPS kinship. So these are typically going to be when CPS removes a child and they're looking for someone who already has that established relationship with a child, maybe a family member or a friend of a friend. That can look a lot of different ways. So with our kinship program, we are able to license people who have those types of placements so that they're getting the same reimbursement and resources that would be available to foster families. So I won't dive too much into that because it can have lots of nuances and things, but if you, maybe that is applicable to you or someone you know, please have them reach out because those resources are there. Let's see. We did talk a little bit about kind of some of the supports that we offer our foster families. We're very, very proud of our Mosaic services. I will mention all of those things that Amber was speaking about, the psychiatry, skills training, therapy, those are actually offered not just to foster families. So if you maybe need those supports or know someone who does, we offer those to anyone who has Medicaid. So you can call our office and we can get you set up with that. As far as case management goes, our case managers are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Again, we want you to be equipped. We want you to have that support. We like to think of ourselves as, you know, a home manager, essentially. We're there to help you navigate the issues that will arise when fostering or whatever that looks like. Let me see. So a lot of people, maybe you're thinking, I would be interested in adoption. I don't know how open I am to foster care. So I did want to talk a little bit about that process. We have lots of adoption motivated families that we work with. It is possible and necessary for families to adopt children from foster care. So the way that would look like would be very similar. We license our families with a dual license for foster and adopt. We would have those conversations about what type of placements you're willing to accept, what that would look like, and then you would be fostering for at least 6 months before adoption would be possible for some of those children, kind of just depending on the legalities of their situation. Kids in foster care, they do get a variety of, I guess, assistance because we do need people to adopt. So those are going to be things like, you know, free college. That's all the way up to a doctorate. You know, continued reimbursement is something that can usually be discussed and negotiated. Continued Medicaid, just on and on. So I get that question a lot when people are inquiring, you know, maybe they're willing, but they don't know if it's something that they can afford to put another kid through college or whatever it may be. We want to help you work through those things. Let's see. If you are interested in becoming a foster parent, it really just starts with an application. From there, we would run background checks. We would help you establish that support network, you know, babysitters, people that you can rely on. As I mentioned, there's lots of trainings that we do, but we do try to make those trainings accessible to you. We are one of the only agencies that I'm aware of that is still doing all of our trainings virtually. So those are going to take place in the evening, sometimes in the weekends. We break our pre-service training into 4 separate trainings where we cover just about every topic that we can shove into them. We try to keep them light and interesting, but, you know, talking about trauma-informed care, what to do in situations that are escalated, all of the basics as far as how to notate medication management, things like that. Yes, and then we have emergency behavior intervention, which is another class that is super helpful. Again, just to really equip our families to be able to handle the situations that arise. On that note, I want to talk a little bit about what makes Pathways different, and some frequently asked questions before we go into that portion. So we do not have any dog breed restrictions. Some agencies do. We also are not a religiously affiliated agency. So we license single adults, unmarried couples, same-sex couples, people of all religious, cultural, and national backgrounds. That's something we're pretty proud of. We do specialize, like I said, in kinship licensing, so we can help families navigate through that if that's something they're dealing with. We do work with individuals with criminal backgrounds, completing risk assessments and guiding them through that process. Again, that's one of those places that has lots of nuances. So reach out if you, that may be something that we need to work through with you. We do offer training in Spanish. Our classes are online. For kinship families, we do help them pay for things financially. And again, we don't require any church affiliation or anything like that. So that's all I had. I know there's a lot of information there, but I think, Amber, was the plan to just answer questions?
Well, yes, and would like to ask you guys if, you know, if we covered the information that you were wanting, and if, you know, if there's any other kind of information that you want to know or questions you have that we can cover.
So we have traditionally asked people to hold their questions to the end. If anybody has a question they want to unmute and just ask it, you're welcome to. If you want to throw it in the chat, you can do that as well. I will say that I have had a couple people send me questions. So if you want me to get started, I don't see anybody popping up to ask. It's not generally a shy group, but if you do, then go ahead and stick in the chat or unmute and you can just totally jump in. Can you talk about babysitters? Somebody said that you have to only have like certain approved babysitters. There's a whole different kind of process. How does that part work?
Sure. So the state minimum standard is that you do have to have what we call a designated support person, which is essentially a babysitter, someone that you're going to be able to call. It's kind of gruesome, but we say, like, if your hand got chopped off by a mower or something, like your emergency person. So those are typically like family or really close friends. We do ask that our babysitters go through CPR and first aid training along with our pre-service 3 class. So that way they are well-versed in, again, how to handle certain situations. I personally, and I'm sure Tammy does too, recommend my families to have as many babysitters approved and ready to go as possible by the time that they're licensed, just because I never want there to be a time frame when you can't call on someone or go on a date, those types of things. So I hope that answers that question, but I can dive in more if I need to.
So you just said that they should get as many babysitters as possible to be approved. So it is like you have to submit a list, and then are those the only people that could babysit?
Sure. So on your, it is just that one that we need in order to do approval. We can always add them more later. But yes, on the application, it'll ask you for who your support network is. And that's kind of the place that we start. Again, we do have those conversations throughout to kind of identify if we need to add more people.
And
the babysitter goes through a background check and all of that as well?
Yes.
yeah,
yep.
background check, and FBI fingerprinting, and CPR first aid. There's a couple DFPS online trainings they have to take. And then the pre-service 3, or if they're going to be respite, which means they're certified to keep the child for up to 2 weeks at a time, then there's a couple more things they have to do. They have to take EBI, emergency behavior intervention. And then we have to have their auto insurance if they're going to be transporting the child at any time. And we definitely work with them. We want to make it as seamless and as easy as possible for our families to get that support. So we are very open about communicating with them, and reaching out to them. Hey, you have this training coming up in a month. So it's an ongoing relationship that we build with this, with our support providers as well.
There had been a person in our community that had 2 children removed from CPS, and they were part of a very tight faith community. And the people in their community then said, well, I'll take the kids. And none of them had gone for a background check. And the kids ended up being placed far outside the community. And so what's the process in that scenario? I mean, how quickly could somebody then step in if they're not related? So it's not directly a kinship. Can they then get certified to take the kids, or do they need to do this before?
Well, it happens both ways. In like emergent type situations, the family, the parent who's having the child removed from them can say, I have a friend who, I would like my children to stay with. And so CPS, when it's in the investigation stage, will then reach out to that person and run their background check, and can sometimes get them approved, before putting them into a foster home with a stranger. So then we have a lot of other situations Tammy and Katie deal with every day where, okay, there's a family member who wants placement of the child or has placement of the child, and wants to become a licensed foster home. So they come to us and they get licensed with us. And then once they do, there are many benefits to that. And we help them a lot. Like, we do also what's called kinship straight adoption, where they don't have to complete all of the training, and they don't have to pass a health inspection as long as their home is safe. For example, we had a grandmother, I guess it's been about a year ago, and she had 4 of her grandchildren, and they were in a very small 2-bedroom apartment. Well, normally with our foster homes, we wouldn't allow that because it's so crowded. But with her, we did a straight adoption so that she didn't have to pass the health inspection. She didn't have to have all those requirements that a regular foster home or a kinship foster home has to meet. But she was still able to adopt her grandchildren and have that permanency and have the post-adoption benefits.
Wow. You must deal with so much. I can't even imagine. Okay, well, I don't want to ask all the questions if other people have questions. But if
No,
not,
this was really helpful. Yeah,
okay.
Thank you for the information.
Thank you. So you were saying dual license for adoption and foster care. So is there a different track to get licensed for each one?
No, so that's just what I guess I'm using like CPA terms, but that's just kind of what we call it. So with that dual license, it's foster and adopt. We can kind of go from there, whatever the case may be. So like I said, we do have some families that are just really adoption motivated. And so we're able to kind of look at things that are going to fit their goals as a family. And then some people that are really open, they don't know what's going to come, but they are ready to just help. And so that's kind of why we do that. So our families are not stuck only being able to go one way, because there's lots of different avenues and kids that need help, and it changes every day.
So what happens if I'm licensed and you call me up and you're like, hey, Kara, we've got a kid and, you know, it's exactly the kind of kid you described that you would be willing to foster. And I say, oh, well, yeah, it's great, but I'm going out of town tomorrow. Like, I'm going to be out of town for a week. I mean, I can just tell you, like, that's not going to work out, right? Okay. Well, it may sound logical to you, but okay. And then, so let's say I say, well, I'm interested in this, but I'm really looking to do a baby, or I really want to do, you know, just girls. I have 3 sons, so I'll just add that. Then what? So, I mean, would you still contact me if I said just babies with a teenager? Or if I said, oh, I just really want to do girls, would you still say, well, I've got a boy, which of course I'm going to say yes. But I mean, how does that part work?
Yeah, so you're absolutely entitled to all of those preferences. And that's again, like why we stress relationship. We want to make sure that it's going to be a good fit for your family, because it needs to be in order for it to be a good fit for the child. So we have families. I have a family on my caseload right now that they raised 2 sons, really great relationship with those sons, but now they're very open to teenage girls. You know, we have basically every end of the spectrum, people that are, you know, nurses and they want to help medically fragile kids. So you can have all of those preferences and we will support those things. One thing that we did not touch on earlier that may be kind of obvious, especially speaking about those children without placement, but some of our biggest needs are going to be like school-age children, teenagers, again, medically fragile, you know, behavioral disorders, things like that. Mm-hmm. We know that, you know, not everyone is equipped to handle situations like that, and that's okay. Don't let that stop you from, you know, becoming licensed to foster adopt. If you're open to other things, those are just kind of the areas where there's a really large need. So if you're open to that, that would be awesome.
So tell us how it works with school. I mean, so if I'm fostering them, would they go to the school that's in my attendance boundary? Would they stay in their own school? I mean, would it just depend on how far away that is? How would that work?
With schools, so most of our kids go to public school. CPS likes that. We like that. We want to support that. There are some situations where they do like homeschooling. We do have some foster families that do that. We do have to get approval for that, you know, from the treatment team. CPS has what they call the regional education specialists. In Region 3, we have Carolyn Marshall, Blythe Ortega, and I think there's another one for 3E, but I reach out to them if we have any issues. We've actually recently had several issues with schools trying to tell our families, well, you can't enroll the child until I have, you know, this or that document. And we're like, no, that's not how it works. This child is in the conservatorship of the state. They are allowed to start school, even if we don't have an immunization record, we don't have the birth certificate. etc. And so I will just email them and say, hey, can you help with this? And they're on it, and they know the laws, they know the policies, and they let the school know. And our team, we're very involved in school as far as advocating for our kids. Many of our children have additional needs, and so they receive special education services. So like today, I had an ARD meeting for one of our kids, and so I sat in on it. I participated. We will go to meetings. And we make sure that our kids are not treated differently or ostracized or whatever because they're in foster care.
Okay, so the answer is yes, they're enrolling in the school that's the home attendance boundary. And so like, what about like after school activities and things like that? I mean, you could just sign them up, or I mean, is that a weird question?
Yeah.
What about go over to somebody else's house to play or something like that? I mean,
yeah.
Do they have to be on that list, or?
No, like a lot of our kids do go to after school programs, and then they can go to friends' houses, they can go to neighbors. That's considered what the state considers normalcy. And there are several trainings that we are required to take. And by the way, the trainings that we require our families to take, all of us as staff, Katie, Tammy, and myself, everybody, we have to take all of those same trainings. So, and we have to take them annually so that we stay up to date on continued education and things like that. There are a couple people with their hands raised. I don't know if you saw that, Kara.
Oh, no, I didn't. Now I can see it. Okay, so let's see. Someone who's got initials SQ. You want to go first?
Hello?
Yes,
Hello.
go on.
Okay.
Hi, Susan.
I have two questions. The first one is, my name is Susan, and my first question is, if people want to do fostering, would they have any reason to be concerned that the parents or other people that were disturbing to the child would be able to come visit them or know where they're living?
That's a good question that we do get quite often. Foster homes are held confidential. Addresses, phone numbers, contact information. Now our children do have visits with family members, and sometimes we have to transport, foster family has to transport to the CPS office or the OCOK office or the McDonald's. But if it does become an issue, then we can address it. If the parents have documented history of violence or instability, then we will take precautions to try to avoid interactions. But you would be surprised, Susan, a lot of our families, they are able to connect with the parents and to help them and to encourage them. And the parents will actually be appreciative and grateful to the foster family. And so it's actually a really beautiful thing when that can happen. And we very much support that. And we teach our families that, please do that. But like I said, not in all situations, right? Some of them, may have violent history, or they're mentally unstable and pose a risk of danger or harm to our foster families.
Okay, my second question is, when people want to learn more about fostering, how do they do that? If they live in the city of Dallas, do they call through line? Do they call their city council? What does a person do if they like getting involved in fostering? How do they go about learning more?
So part of what Tammy and my job is to educate and inform people who are interested in fostering. So, you know, sometimes we have people that call and ask a couple of questions and then we don't hear from them again. And then sometimes we have those same people where they call us back a year later and they're like, okay, I'm ready. So really you can just email us or call us and we can give you that information, I guess, at the end of how to reach us. But that would be really where it starts. Just reach out so that we can address all of that stuff, answer any questions that you have, and get you started, or whoever started.
Okay. We're in this meeting because we know Kara, and this is District 12, and they're very helpful in these kinds of situations. But the average person doesn't know about you. What do they do if they're even talking about it or thinking about it? Is there a number for fostering? I mean, is there a place in City Hall, or how do people learn about fostering?
So DFPS also hosts meetings. So a lot of people will get connected that way through CPS directly. And those are meetings that our agency, along with lots of other agencies, are a part of. So I think most people just kind of Google and call around until they get to where they need to be. We do try to be a presence in those meetings and other events in the community so we can, you know, connect with people just like this.
There's a state board that's supposed to be working. Yeah, there's a state board that's supposed to be working on doing a little stronger outreach to really raise awareness of the need for foster families. And I know I watched the last state, I watched their last meeting, and they were definitely talking about this. And I'm wondering, Katie, would you be able to write in the chat your contact information for you and Tammy? And so if somebody wants to reach out, they can grab it, either your phone number or your email. And then Matthew, you have a question in the chat. Do you want to read it, or you want me to read it for you? So his question is, oh, he says I can read it. It says, how long can the licensing for foster or adoption take, more or less? And second, do you have volunteer or mentorships? So do you need volunteers that aren't necessarily, I think what he's saying is not necessarily someone who's going to foster, but is there some other way that a person can help?
Absolutely. We are definitely open to volunteers helping us with events, you know, informative meetings with our team, with our families. You know, we try to have an event at least 3 or 4 times a year for all of our families to, you know, have a good time and meet each other and show appreciation to them and things like that. We did have a foster parent appreciation event in May out at a petting farm ranch. They do a lot of rescue work, but we had that. That was a lot of fun. And we also always accept donations. We don't have a lot of storage in our office, so we can't accept a lot of donations of material things, but we, you know, one of the most helpful things we can do is when a family gets a new placement of a child, to hand them like a Target gift card for $15 or $20 or whatever, so that they can go. And a lot of our kids, they come into our homes with nothing but the clothes on their back. And they're dirty and they are a mess and they have diaper rash and they have scabies and head lice and all of these things. And so if we can hand a gift card, a Walmart gift card for $25 to our family, it just means a lot. And for them to be able to go buy, you know, go buy hygiene items for the child and let them pick out a new pair of pajamas, you know, that kind of thing.
We also have families that maybe they're not able to foster or adopt in like a long-term way, but we can license them as a respite provider for our families that are fostering and adopting. So that can be anywhere from a weekend or an afternoon up to 2 weeks. And we do have families within our agency that serve in that capacity.
We love our respite families.
Yeah. It's super helpful, again, for those
It
kinship
is.
families too that maybe don't have that support network, and we can say, let's connect you with this respite provider. That way they can get licensed and get the reimbursement and help that they need. So that's another thing to think about.
Okay, Joe, I see you have your hand up.
Hi, thank you. So I am an adoptive mom. I adopted my daughter at birth. It was through a private adoption. I did try to go through CPS in Texas and found it very difficult. It's scary. And with the amount of time that they had for, I think it was a 3-year period at the time for reuniting with the child with the birth family or friends of the family, or, going on and on. But that's neither here nor there. My question went along with the previous question. I am not in a position to foster at this time, but I would like to help. And whether that is making financial gifts or volunteer, I think there is an awareness issue with financial giving that I think we could help you with. Whether it's neighborhood associations doing a fundraiser for Target gift cards. I mean, those are.
I love that idea.
That's a simple thing to do. We just have to know exactly what we're asking for. But Target gift cards, Walmart gift cards, those are something that can be used everywhere. I'd like to see it be more than $25. I don't know how much $25 will buy. It'll buy a pair of pajamas nowadays. But to at least be able to give the child a backpack and a set of clothes for school. But if you could either give the information to the councilwoman or put it in the chat to where we could share it with our neighborhood associations and see what we could do. My second question is, right now, how many children are awaiting foster care or awaiting placement?
Are you talking, so the CWAP kids, which is child without placement?
Correct.
I do not know the current data on that. It's been a while since Katie, have you heard recently a number?
I can try to look really quick. I don't know off the top of my head.
Just trying to gather what the need is.
Yeah.
Do we have enough foster families to serve the children that need?
No.
No, never. The thing is too, is like we talked about a little bit about like our biggest needs and things like that are going to be for those harder to place children. The kids who are CWAP, they have the most extensive trauma histories, which means they have some severe behaviors. And, a lot of families are willing to take in a baby, and that is a need, or a little kid. But if you're willing to take in sibling groups, that's a huge need. If you're willing to take in those more extensive trauma histories and behaviors, those are going to be the kids that you're seeing without placement. So I hope that helps. The number kind of ebbs and flows. We look at it about monthly, and a lot of those kids are, in and out of residential treatment centers or, getting mental health treatment. But
psych hospitals, juvenile detention.
Yeah.
And this is my Thank you. My last question, I promise. But if I'm going back again to what we can do to help besides fostering. Do you guys do any type of drives during the holidays or birthday parties that maybe you have an adopt a family, and it's not just the foster kids, but it's the whole family. You adopt the family and be able to give a gift for each person of the family? Any types of outreach like that?
Well, we it's been a couple years ago, but we did have something that was called like birthday boxes, and there was a group or an organization that donated birthday boxes, and the boxes were sorted by kind of age and gender, and they would have like cake mix.
The birthday party project.
Yeah. But we haven't had that. That was actually probably 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. For the holidays, we do have a company that has very graciously and generously been providing gifts for all of our foster families each year around the holidays. Last year we had one of the big cancer physicians groups here in Dallas. They donated like 4 Thanksgiving meals to our, like they asked us, which families are the most in need. And would most like kind of appreciate this and need it. And so we gave them names and they provided that. So, I mean, we're always looking for things like that to help, especially our kinship families that, Katie and Tammy know very well. We pay for things for them just so they can get licensed. They live paycheck to paycheck, or not even. And so, especially with those families, we really love to be able to help them. And with regular foster families and adoptive families, we have a full range of, income and lifestyles. We have families that are, both parents are lawyers or physicians. And then we have families who, live in small apartment and work, blue collar jobs, things like so. And we support all of those families. And that's one thing that we pride ourselves on is working with all types of families.
One thing that could be helpful. Sorry, one thing that could be helpful too would be
if you had a family in District 12, for example, anonymous, of course. But if you were able to reach out and say, hey, we have a family here in District 12 who is fostering, and this is their need list, whether it's an Amazon wish list or whatnot, but I can guarantee you we would accomplish that in a matter of minutes.
That's
with
awesome.
The generosity we have in this district.
There's lots of differing needs at different times too. So some people just will reach out and say what can we do? What do you need right now? I mean, ongoing, there's things that in order to be a foster home, there's minimum standards we have to abide by. So I always tell people if you want to donate things like child locks, medication lock boxes, baby proofing items, things like that, we're always going to be able to find someone who needs that. And then if you want to do something more extensive, reach out to Amber. We always have families that could use something at some point. So.
Christine, did you have a question? I thought I heard you saying something. That's okay. I'm wondering, Amber, can you just tell us quickly, like, what's your portfolio right now of how many kids are you guys managing just through Pathways? And then how many are you trying to find placements for?
Okay, let me pull up here.
It doesn't have to be an exact number. I'm just trying to get an idea.
Well, I was trying to look at our statewide census. It's usually around 700. Our DFW office, we currently have 64 children. That's our census, so that's the number of children who are currently placed in our homes. And I was trying to find, anyway, I don't, do you remember how to find that, Katie? The statewide census in ER?
Is 64 just through Pathways, or is it 64 from the state?
That's in our Dallas office only. So like there's our Houston office is our largest office. I'm not sure how many kids they're serving currently. That's the 64 is just what we're doing currently in Dallas, Region 3.
Does that make sense?
Can you just confirm that's just for Pathways? That's not other agencies that are also doing this?
Oh no,
No.
Yes, that's just our Pathways office here in Dallas.
And then,
but
I just want to confirm one other thing. Is it true that kids that are removed from Dallas or the Dallas area are frequently being sent to other cities because we don't have enough fostering?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially the children who have the severe behaviors. And so they get sent to residential treatment centers. And we also have children placed in Dallas and Fort Worth here from other cities like San Antonio, Amarillo. There's a big need in the Panhandle. I guess there's a real, like, hardly any foster homes. And so we have placed many of those children in our homes here.
I didn't know that. Thank you. So what's your turnover rate? I mean, this has to be a really hard job. How do you guys handle it?
We're crazy. I don't know.
It takes a special person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
it's a very rewarding job. So
It
yes,
is.
it is tough, but the rewards outweigh that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, I learned a lot tonight. I hope everybody else did as well. I know that Madison has your information from setting this up. Madison, Luis, great job. Thank you. And I can see it's been recorded. We are going to share it with everyone, including Joe. Great idea. I know, Christine, you echoed it in the chat about, doing some sort of drive for the folks. And we'll just see if we can't get that going. And actually, the two of you, I'd love to talk to you about a whole more systematic way for us to do some of the work that I think we always talk about. So, and often do, but maybe as a more ad hoc, but let's maybe do it more systemically. Anyhow, I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to District 12. And we did invite some people outside of District 12, so hopefully they listened as well. And then we will share the video and the link so that people can watch it offline and get back in touch with you.
It
And
looks like
Kara, I don't think any of us can find the chat. So I don't know if that's a user error, but maybe Madison could share our emails or
well, I'll
something
tell you
like
what,
that.
why don't you say your phone number in an email so at least it's on the recording, and then we'll have it. And so when we send it out, we'll do that, but at least it's still in the recording too.
And Tammy Jones has her hand raised.
Well, let's have Tammy Jones ask a question.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to know if I could connect with the lady that discussed having a drive. I would like to work with her on that.
You bet.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, so Tammy, if you'll email our office, we'll connect you, and maybe you'd like to join the conversation that we're having about how we can kind of maybe support a number of efforts within the community, with this being one of them.
That would be great. I'll do that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, well, again, I really appreciate everyone taking the time to learn a little bit more. I hope it piques your interest. If you end up becoming a foster family, I'd love to know it. And if you have any other questions, like I said, we'll send this information back out to you so that people can directly ask you. I did just get a message from someone who said we forgot to talk about one thing, which is that there is some reimbursement rate that folks get when they foster. And I'm wondering if you could talk about that.
Yeah. So DFPS, the way that they reimburse foster parents, they call it like a daily reimbursement rate. And the way it works is depending on the level of care for a child dictates the amount of pay. So for a basic level child, it's $27.10 a night. And then for, what is it, $27.07. Is that it, Katie? Yeah. And then if the child is a moderate, so basic level of care is what it sounds like base. So it's a child who's not severely struggling, you know, and then the moderate level child is 40, Katie or Tammy, help me. Is it 44?
I want to say 43.13, but I could be making that up. It's something in that range.
Yeah, it's like $44 a night.
That sounds right to me.
And then when you go up to specialized, a child who's specialized level of care, which we have specialized children in some of our homes, the daily reimbursement rate is about $56 a night, which is about $1,600 per month. And then intense level child, so usually those are children who are either medically needy, that are dependent on life-sustaining equipment like a tracheostomy or a vent or a G-tube, or children who have the most severe behaviors and can't be maintained in a home setting. That is $99 a night, so about $3,000 a month. And then our SSCCs, or our private providers, private contractors with the state, like Our Community, Our Kids, and To Belong, and St. Francis Ministries, they have their own pay rate that they set up with the state. So we are paid a certain amount, and then we pass through a certain amount to our families, and they get paid direct deposit on the 5th and the 20th of each month. And then we just started a respite fund. So we're going to start giving for children who are moderate level of care or higher. Each child will get, or the family will get $25 a month per child, which is not very much, but at least it's something to help.
And is the money intended to offset expenses, or you're kind of like paying for care, or how is that viewed?
We consider it a reimbursement. So that's one of the things when we're, working with you before you're licensed, is we're wanting to see that you can pay your bills and those kinds of things without that, because being a parent is expensive. So we do reimburse, but we need to see that you can, take care of those things like new shoes, or if the kids come with nothing, are you going to be able to get those needs taken care of quickly before we do that reimbursement? I also wanted to say that the level of care is not something that Pathways is setting. That's one of the things that's important and why people choose to work with a child placing agency, is so that you have those people advocating if the child needs to be leveled up or something like that, because we do want you to get a reimbursement for those things that you're dealing with, that's appropriate.
And is there, there's not like an initial payment to help you, like if you need to get a crib or you need to, you know, buy a wardrobe or something like that. It's just the monthly reimbursement. Is that right?
Yeah, and the way our reimbursement scheduled payments, it's almost a full month delay, just like when you start a new job. So that's another reason that those gift cards and things, you know, are very, very important and very helpful. But again, like Katie was saying, we do require proof of income. So we look at pay stubs, we look at tax returns, we look at bank statements. So yeah, the licensing process, Katie and Tammy can tell you better than I, is a quite invasive and in-depth process. We vet our families. Pathways takes licensing families very seriously, and there are other agencies who will license a family in like a month. We don't do that. We you know, we take what we do very seriously, and the safety of our homes. So that's another thing that really sets us apart.
There are like also a number of like foster family closets, and some places have child welfare boards that will connect you with. I shop for all of my kids through like consignment, so I love connecting families with things like that. So if, you know, we do license people at all levels socioeconomically. So we try to connect you with those resources so you can continue to foster if you have a need come up, as long as you, you know, can pay your bills and keep a child safe.
And do we have a child welfare board in this area? Or is it just a state board?
I'm not sure about that region.
Well, I know Dallas County CPS has a child welfare board. Just like Collin County, Grayson County, Kaufman County.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, we may need to find out more about that, because it might be that we should give stuff to them and then they can give it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you guys have been fantastic. Thank you so much. I really, truly appreciate you being here and answering all these questions. Have a great night, everybody. I hope you learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, y'all.
Thanks,
Night.
everybody.